एकम् अक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते हृदयकुहर मध्ये केवलं मात्रं यहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता चलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तत भावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः ओहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिः दृष्टात्मनिष्टात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। Namo Ramana. In this Thursday Satsang from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, it has been our practice to take two verses from the work Guruvachika Kovai. The work is by Muruganar Swamigal. The verses are selected randomly for us by Revatima. Each verse is read and the verse reading is followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that is followed by the practice of Atma Vicharam for about 15 minutes. After these two segments of verse reading, the satsang, by taking the first verse selected for us, verse number 54. Verse number 54 we find in the segment investigation into truth. The other two segments that follow are meditation on the truth and the experience of the truth. This particular verse 54, we find in the subsegment, which is quite a big subsegment, reality of the world. Reality of the world, verse number 54. The Jnani's vision matures into being consciousness bliss, Sat Chit Ananda, the eye of truth. The Jnani's vision, whatever it was, it matures into Satchitananda, which is the eye of truth. Which is Satchitananda is the eye with which you can see the truth. It is the eye of truth. It is the truth itself. Because the mischievous movements of the ego mind have ceased completely. The Jnani's vision has matured into Satchitananda, the eye of truth. Why so? Because the mischievous movements of the ego mind have ceased completely in the Jnani. Since the nature of the scene, since the nature of the drishya is not different from the nature of the eye that sees, since the nature of the scene is not different from the nature of the eye that sees, to the true Jnani, the world too is definitely being consciousness bliss. The world too is definitely, to the true Jnani, it is being consciousness bliss. This is more or less the ending part, at least, is in consonance with verse number 4 of Ulladu Narpadu. Kannaduthan Andamila Kanname says that the Jnani's vision, however it might have begun in sadhana, as the Jnana is fulfilled or is complete, the Jnani's vision matures into being consciousness bliss. That itself, the vision itself is Satchitananda, the eye of truth. Because the mischievous movements of the ego mind have stopped completely. What does the mischievous mind do? The mischievous ego mind. Bhagavan gives us this root cause of misery, root cause of not having jnana vision as the thoughts of the mind coming in between. In fact, he makes it even more simpler by saying that since all the other thoughts of the mind arise only after the rising of the I thought, they exist only in the presence of the I thought, and none of the thoughts can exist with the I thought vanishing in deep sleep. It is the purity or impurity of the I thought that differentiates the jnani and the ajnani. So, how does the jnani get the jnana chakshu? Only the I, the ego, has been totally purified and loses its ego nature, the outwardness. Therefore, as said in Atma Bodha, the jiva itself realizes its truth as Paramatma. It's not that some other thing comes and does something. It is that the very one who began the inquiry as I am this limited body, this limited identity with the mind, that very one, as the mind is stilled, we listen to Bhagavan saying, the best thing a Shishya can do in the hall, in the meditation hall of Ramanacentre, is to be still. That he calls as the disciples' mauna. He calls it as, it may not be Paramartha mauna. It is with your effort, bhava bala, you have stilled the ego. And the Guru's mauna is always present. So, the very act of stilling your ego and the presence of ever-present nature of Guru's mauna, the Satchitananda, something happens. The ego nature vanishes and the causeless Satchitananda descends or ascends or becomes self-luminous. Whatever words you can use, all of them are totally useless. All of them are totally indicative because the words become unnecessary. And the Jnani's mind is itself the Satchitananda. And the verse ends, therefore, the world too is Satchitananda for the Jnani. This in Ullathanarpadu, Lakshman Sharma ji says, only a Jnani can understand the contradictory statements being all right. That in one breath, the Guru will say that the world is Maya. And in another breath, the same Guru will say the world is Satchitananda. How to reconcile? These are totally opposite things said of the same world. And Lakshman Sharma ji says, the world as names and forms is Maya, and the world seen with the Jnana Chakshu as the Jnana Chakshu itself, as the Satchitananda itself is reality. So therefore, there is no more world. What you saw as the other person is only the self now. There is no other. So for the Jnana Chakshu, for the eye of the Jnani, which is itself Satchitananda, there is no other to see other than Satchitananda. Sarvam Brahmamayam. Sarvam Atmamayam. Something like that. As Bhagavan says in the Mangala Shloka or Mangala line to the first prose work called Self-Enquiry, Bhagavan says there, I am only paraphrasing, I am not quoting exactly, but the meaning is so clear. Bhagavan says, how to adore the Supreme, how to worship the Supreme, how to adore the Supreme, which is everything. The Supreme is everything. How to adore the Supreme, which is everything, except by abiding firmly as that. Except by abiding firmly as Satchitananda, there is no other way of worshipping the Supreme, he says. So, the Jnana and Bhakti, they merge into oneness. They are synthesized into oneness in the Satchitananda, which is the Jnani's mind. And what is the process by which the Jnani's mind is purified? By the stillness of the ego mind. You can call it stillness of the whole ego mind or purification of the ego by stilling it. Either way, that ego drops, the mind drops, the world drops, Satchitananda shines all by itself. Soham Spurti Taya Arunachala Shivaha Purno Vibhati Swaya. As the Purna Vastu, the Jnani, Arunachala Shiva, Satchitananda, shines by itself. Let us still the disciple's mind in practice of Atma Vicharam. The Guru's silence is always there. Is always blessing. So when the Sishya's mind is also stilled, then something happens inexplicably because it is not due to you stilling the mind. Something beyond the disciple's efforts completes the sadhana. Therefore, the whole journey of sadhana also is absorbed in that Satchitananda, which alone is. So let us practice Atma Vicharam for the next 15 minutes, where the Sishya, deliberately understanding that the mind and the ego can never measure the source, goes about stilling them. Ujjwalji, we can set the time for it. Thank you. Namo Ramana.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by taking up the second verse selected for us, verse number 720. 720 we find in the segment meditation on the truth. The subsegment is devotion. Meditation on the truth, verse number 720. The subheading is devotion. Those who have drunk deeply of devotion through a mind that has become ripe through devotion. Those who have drunk deeply of devotion through a mind that has become ripe through devotion will, as the reward of their devotion, crave only surging supreme devotion, parabhakti, the ever-fresh ambrosia of devotion itself. Those who have drunk deeply of devotion through a mind that has become ripe through devotion will, as the reward for their devotion, craving only surging supreme devotion, will crave only surging supreme devotion, parabhakti, the ever fresh ambrosia of devotion itself. So the devotion, the bhakti, the sharanagati, which is commonly called faith, which is devotion per se. Dilip ji had forwarded me yesterday night after the Atma Bodha session a video where one of the actors in the movie Jesus of Nazareth, his name is Ernst Borgnine. He's an Oscar-winning actor. He has given an interview about his experience in acting. He says, in that movie, he says, in that particular shot, he is having a dialogue with Jesus, who is seated amongst the Israelites. See, there were no Christians then. It was only the Jews. And the Romans were considered as outsiders. And Ernst Borgnine is playing the part of a centurion, a person in command of 100 soldiers in the Roman army. And Ernst Borgnine says that in that particular scene itself, Jesus goes out of the picture and the camera is totally on Ernst Borgnine. At that point, the director says, where you should fix your attention. I will mark an X. You look at that point and imagine you are talking to Jesus and give the dialogue. And Ernst Borgnine asks the director, to help my visualization, can you read the last words of Jesus before crucifixion from the Bible? You, as the director, you read it so that my visualization in the next point, it can be, my devotion to Jesus can be helped by these words. And he says, in the place where X was there, in the place the into mark was there, Jesus appears as he was or as he is in his crucifixion. And the voice of the director goes away and it is Jesus' voice that is there. And he says the head of Jesus falls and he starts crying unconsolably while delivering the dialogue. And the director, of course, says, cut. And this scene is not suitable. Though you might have seen Jesus himself. At that time, he probably did not reveal. But his bhakti was of such nature that Jesus himself appeared And this Dilipji had forwarded yesterday after the Atma Bodha session on the self. And that is one scene which I have seen again and again on the YouTube. And that movie also I have seen sometimes, the Jesus of Nazareth. That particular scene is where the centurion goes and approaches Jesus with a special request, and the people around him are all opposed because he's a centurion from the Roman army, and people around Jesus are all Jews. And then he comes and asks, I have a special favor to ask, that the person who is helping out at my home, he is more than my son, but he is paralyzed and he is having great illness, he is dying. I want you to save him. I have this special request from you. Jesus says, oh, come, let's go. Where is your home? Let's go to your home. And the centurion says, my house is not worthy of your visiting it. And it's not necessary, because I know what it is to have authority, that I work under command, and there are 100 people working under me. And I know if I say go and do it, it will be done. If I say go there, they will go. I did not see, I need not follow them and check whether they are going, whether it is done. If I say, it will be done. I know that is the power of authority. And all I need you is to say from here itself, let the illness be cured. And Jesus says at that point, see the faith of the centurion. You guys around me, you don't have this kind of faith. Rarely have I seen such faith among you guys, he says. See what happens to faith there as the faith expands, as the faith matures, as the devotion becomes more and more devoted, the time and space lose their effect. The world loses its power over that faith. That's why it is said faith can move mountains, literally. That the mountains in between the place where Jesus was and the place where the home that boy was didn't matter at all. And he says, Jesus says, your faith itself has cured your boy, you go. Now that is bhakti, that is how faith matures, how devotion matures, till parabhakti it comes to. Parabhakti is ananya bhakti, that there can be nothing other than God. From omnipotence of God, see, the centurion is still believing in the potency, in the power of God. And he's saying, you don't need to come there, you just tell. But then the bhakti matures to understand, not even ask for this, not even ask for a special favor, because you understand already the whole creation is under that one umbrella, under the omnipotence of Ishvara. So where is the question of asking? So when the omnipotence is completely understood, we don't pray for RMCL. We don't pray for our family. We don't pray for our country. As Bhagavan says to Ganapati Muni, don't pray for your country. Do Atma Vichara. That is enough, he says. Do you have to tell God, Ishvara, when he has to liberate the country? You do Atma Vichara. That is enough. That is Parabhakti. And devotion has to mature. When Ishvara is there, who am I to advise him to liberate the country or to give something to my family? So that devotion, when it matures, the verse says, it will mature into Parabhakti. Parabhakti means that the omnipotence is complete. I don't need to say, I don't need to ask anything. I need only to know God. I need only to remember God. That is omniscience. From omnipotence, the bhakti matures to omniscience, because you don't need to know the individual things. You need to know only Ramana. If you know Ramana, then the whole work is completed. If you know the I, the omnipotence is assumed there. From omniscience, from holding the Ramana as Anya Bhava, we come to Atma Vichara. The bhakti will mature. Bhagavan says in Upadesha Saram, verses 7, 8, 9, 10, he will bring from Anya Bhakti to Ananya Bhakti, to Parabhakti. He will say, Bhava Bhalattinal Bhavanatita Sadbhavatirtale Undipara Parabhakti Tattvam. With the Bhava Bala only, with the Jiva Bala, hold the I. Don't ask anything of Ishvara. Don't say and know him as a some other thought. Hold him as the very I thought. That is Parabhakti. And there surges something beyond the mind, beyond the brain, beyond the mind. The Supreme Being surges as the fullness of devotion, as the I. It is Anandamaya. It is the supreme bliss. Causeless in the I. Something extraordinary happens. A bliss that is causeless comes and inundates into the mind of the devotee, and the devotee and his thoughts are no more. There is only Anandamaya, there is only Chinmaya, there is only Satmaya. That Satchitananda alone is realized by the devotee also. This is the journey from faith through to jnana, which is called as Parabhakti. There is no other truth. There is only one truth, that the Satchitananda alone is. And that's what the Parabhakti is, what we are going to practice in Atma Ucharam for the next 15 minutes. Ujjwalji, you can set the time for us. Namo Ramana.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. May I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana sir.
Namo Ramana. Oh. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jnanamulam Gurur Mukti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Vakyam, Mokshamulam Guror Kripa, Mokshamulam Guror Kripa. Now, we were talking about, Nandakumar was talking about bhakti. After this we will have the Ashtotra Puja. So what happens when the Ashtotra Puja starts? Initially, you are thinking about Bhagwan, you are looking at Bhagwan's picture and flowers being offered, and the Ashtotra started. And then after some time, what happens? As the Ashtotra picks up, the person who is chanting also, initially he will think about the verses, which is the next nama, next nama. And then what happens? He becomes quiet. He does not remember which is the next verse, because that will happen automatically because of his love for Bhagwan, which is outside. Right now, the flowers is being offered outside. But what happens? After that, he closes his eyes, and then afterwards he will continuously chant the namas, continuously it will go on. And then what happens? Outside the flowers will be offered, but inside there will be great peace. There will be he will start seeing God within. The God which was outside in the photograph will start being within. And then after that, what happens? The parabhakti, the love for God is so intense that what happens is it go on itself. He won't even realize how the names are coming out. It is just the Namavali just coming out. Names are just coming out. And he doesn't do anything. He just gets into a love for God. That's all. Nothing else remains. And the Namavali will just keep on going on till, or Ashtotra will keep on going on till till the whole thing is complete. How does that happen? It is just love for God. Exactly the same thing in the that's in the Bhakti Marga. But if you look at the Jnana Marga, what happens? Same thing happens. That we start doing self-enquiry. Because Bhagavan says, Hridaya Kuharam Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. God is here. Where are you looking for him? He's here. Then you develop this great love for God. Then what happens? You keep on doing self-enquiry. Then what happens? As you keep doing self-enquiry, this, like what it says beautifully in this, that the nature of the seed is not different from the nature of the eye that sees. So the nature of the mind, which is doing inquiry into the nature of the seed. So that nature of both is the same. The nature of the mind and the nature of the self is the same. So what happens as we keep doing self-inquiry? That's why what happens? It reveals itself. It's exactly the same thing that happened with Apita Kuchamba and Arunachala. When Apita Kuchamba did all her tapasya, Parvati did all her tapasya and came to Arunachala. She wanted to merge into. She had great love for Shiva, for Arunachala. And then what happened? We realized that Arunachala is Ardhanarishwara. How is Apitakam Kuchamba, how did she merge into Arunachala? Because of this. Because why? The nature of the scene is not different from the nature of the eyes that sees. So the nature of Apita Kuchamba was the Satchidananda, and the nature of Arunachala also was Satchidananda. So that's why both of them merged beautifully. That's why we have a beautiful hill which we call Arunachala. But what is it basically? It is Satchidananda. We don't see it as Arunachala separate. We don't see it as Apita Kuchamba separate because they are one. So that's where bhakti takes you to. So great love for Bhagwan, great love for the self within will take you to that same place. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana, sir. That was extraordinary summing up. Thank you so much.
Arunachala.
Namo Ramana, Vaibhavji and Pratnama. May I request you to start the chanting, and Manjunatji will offer the flowers. Namo Ramana.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चेत् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महोंशेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्ड संविदाकाराय नमः ॐ महौजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शूणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः ॐ तीव्राय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ तपोमयाय नमः ॐ उदासीनाय नमः ॐ महायोगिने नमः ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः ॐ च्यूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः ॐ शोणिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणादिगाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजदशलाकृतये नमः ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः ॐ पूर्णाय नमः ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः ॐ गम्भीराय नमः ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिधाय नमः ॐ धीराय नमः ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः ॐ स्वराजे नमः ॐ महर्षये नमः ॐ भगवते नमः ॐ ईड्याय नमः ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः ॐ विमलाय नमः ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः ॐ आप्ताय नमः ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः ॐ समदृशे नमः ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेश्वे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋचान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्थिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ध्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः निर्दिष्टस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नमः लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संगिये नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಗಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ महर्षि नमो महर्षि।
बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की
जय।
जय। थैंक यू जगदम मैडम, नमो रमणा।
ನಮೋ ರಮಣ ಅಕ್ಕ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮೋ ರಮಣ.
ನಮೋ ರಮಣ ನಂದಕುಮಾರ್.